Okay, hold on. It is Thursday night, the 25th of January, and tomorrow's Robert Burns. And so the Scottish lot are freaking already taking over. I've not even got to press record, and they're off. They're off, all of them. Gobbledygook. But I love you. I'm joking. You know that. Jane's just come from a curry, which is not something she's eaten. It's a place. And it's a full moon. And Elaine is our wisdom tonight to share what this means for all of us. Elaine, please, off you go.
Well, there's been a lot happening over the last few days, but on at the weekend, Pluto has changed position, and Aquarius has gone into Pluto, and that, you know, obviously there's been storms up and down the country, so I think this is a point of transition for people, and in terms of the wolf moon. So what happens in terms of the moon energy is it started yesterday, you know, and it's around for a few days. And if people, certainly in Scotland at the moment, as you can almost see a circular field around the moon. So it's a really, really, really strong moon. And in terms of what it means, the wolf moon really, it's a reflective energy, a new passion. And it's just really encouraging us to think, you know, to think within.
Thank you. Full moon in Leo. What have you got your period right now? Does that mean you're gonna like get, I don't know, turn into a monster?
But quite often a lot of women end up being in sync in terms of the full moon. The moon energy, and actually I think it's really nice if your period falls on the moon cycle.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you so much. Okay, there we go, everybody. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, chapter 3. Heavy book, right? Are we enjoying this, everyone? Yeah, there's a lot to it. It's quite a deep book, isn't it? I feel like she's really stripping away us, whether we like it or not. I mean, if you don't have shame, what did she say? She basically told us if we are not experiencing shame, then what are we, with psycho people or something in this? So you want to admit that you do experience shame. Let's go. Okay, so I'm going to bring us into page 61. So she's talking about talking on stage, and she has a husband who's been forced to listen to her do the research, you know, a researcher on shame, and comes and she starts giving analogies of Harry Potter. Harry Potter fans, raise your hand for me. Yes, there's not many of us. Oh my God, I thought there would be more. Okay, what are those weirdos that do this with the finger fans? Fortunately, Harry Potter doesn't do that. Are you one of those? If you are, put your hands like this for me. I'm not, but ooh, we don't have any of those. Okay, interesting. What is that? Is that what is that one? It's not Star Wars, is it?
Star Trek.
It's Spock in Star Trek.
Oh, that one. Okay.
The Vulcans do that.
May the force be with you.
It's very hard, very hard. So yes, I know Lorraine Wetherby did J.K. Rowling's red carpet design dress, didn't you, Lorraine?
Several. In
fact, I've got a girl joining book club, and she'll be listening to this recording, and I had a one-to-one with her today. And hi, Debbie. And I mentioned you, Lorraine, because I was talking about this book, and I was talking about J.K. Rowling, and my claim to fame is my friend Lorraine designed her clothes for the Red Walk. So you see, funny you should say that. Yeah, amazing. And so you met her in person?
Oh, several times. She didn't actually tell me who she was when she first came in, because the appointment was made for her nanny, and she was coming in with the nanny who was getting married. And then when the nanny had gone to use the bathroom, she leant across, she said, I'd like to pay for the dress. I said, well, she's not picked it yet. I said, and I don't know which one she's going to pick or how much it's going to be. She said, but can you just take some money today? And I didn't know when she came in, because at that point she wasn't a famous face, just a name. And I wasn't sure it was her. So I had to go downstairs, say to one of the ladies who was like a huge Harry Potter fan, can you come up and can you just tell me if you think that is J.K. Rowling? So I said, just write it on the paper beside me when you bring up some drinks. And she wrote 98% sure. And
Great
but then
story.
obviously when she handed her card over, yeah, I knew, and she did share some interesting things. I've never really said that much about it, but you know, about getting started and the shame of it not working, and people, you know, making her feel vulnerable. You know, why is she wasting her time doing that, and it'll never work, and you know, all the things we get in our board.
Yeah.
But she was very kind, very shy, very generous. Yes, our card was a black Amex, whoever's asking that, Steph, it
Steph.
absolutely was. And it was funny because that same very first meeting, she said, oh, can I try that outfit on? And she bought it, and then she ordered others. And then she was hosting a big dinner, and the theme was high society. And we had done the drawings and everything. And then our fitting was going to be the following week, and on the Sunday, High Society came on, and on the Monday morning, my first phone call was from her. I said, were you watching High Society? Yes. She said, yes. I said, you know that buckle? I said, I've got one, if that's what you're asking, and yes, I can put it in your dress. She was absolutely lovely.
Wow. Lorraine, you have some of the best stories, seriously. We need to
Sorry.
remember this one, right? Well, I know anyway. I'm never going to forget that. That's such a claim to fame. I love it. Thank you for sharing. And just quickly before we do get on into the book, Snape was a favorite character. So put your hands up if you're a Harry Potter fan again. There was about 4 of us. Okay, so Morag, Steph. Oh, there's only 4. So be quick on this one. Jane, Lorraine, Morag, Steph, unmute. Tell me your favorite character and why. Jane, you first. Go.
Probably Snape, just because of the intricacies of his character.
Thank you. Lorraine?
I actually love Maggie Smith. So any character she ever plays, I just love her wiseness. She'd be great on book group.
Thank you. Morag?
Hagrid, larger than life, darling.
Oh.
But I'm trying to remember his name. He passed away, and I loved his voice. He was in the first
Robbie
couple of-
Coltrane.
Yeah, no, it's not Robbie. That's Hagrid, but no, I'm trying to think of another actor. He was English, and I loved his voice, and I can't think who it is, but he was only in a couple of them.
Thank you, Morag. Steph?
Hermione, when she was very young, the first couple of seasons, first couple of iterations.
Perfect.
Loved it.
Oh man, thank you guys. All right, thanks for bearing if you're not a Harry Potter fan. Anyway, okay, so page 61. Oh yeah, no, we're talking about shame. Okay, love this. So it's going to be the second last full paragraph. Exactly, Sirius told Harry to listen to him very carefully. That's who we really are. So that first paragraph, I want that to be our Harry Potter fan. So it can be Jane because Sirius is your favorite. So you go first on that one. And then we all have shame, the next full paragraph on page 61, the last paragraph, all the way to we need to develop resilience to shame. And let us get Lorraine to do that. Off we go, please, ladies.
Exactly. Sirius told Harry to listen to him very carefully. Then he said, you're not a bad person. You're a very good person who bad things have happened to. Besides, the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. We've all got both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. That's who we really are.
So Lorraine, before you go, isn't it interesting? It's the wolf moon tonight, and we all know the story about the black wolf and the white wolf. Do we all know that? Which one are you feeding? Does anybody not know that story? We've done it multiple times in book club. You might have missed it. Anyone put your hand up if you don't know the story about the wolf, the black and the white. Jane, you don't know that. Okay. Can I get somebody to put that in the WhatsApp group for us, please? The story of the black and the white. But not you yet, Lorraine, because you're about to talk. So Lorraine, you can do it afterwards. Right, Lorraine, it's on you. Next paragraph.
Okay, thank you so much. Well read, Jane. We all have shame. We all have good and bad, dark and light inside of us. Oh no, my dog's going to bark because Ian's coming. Sorry. But if we don't come to terms with our shame, our struggles, we start believing that there's something wrong with us, that we're bad, flawed, not good enough, and even worse, we start acting on those beliefs. If we want to be fully engaged, to be connected, we have to be vulnerable. In order to be vulnerable, we need to develop resilience to shame.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we all have dark and light inside of us. Do we all agree with that statement? And do we feel we have more light than dark in us? Do you know anybody who's got more dark than light in them? Yeah. Okay, interesting. And I wonder why you think that. We won't go into it, but do you think we're balanced when we're born 50 light, 50 dark? Or do you think some people are born with more dark than light? And some people more light than dark? Is it something nurtured or nature? Does anybody want to comment on that? Okay, Jane.
All right, go Jane.
I think
It's
I
a
was
Scottish show tonight, isn't it? Hey?
I was just going to say that if you think of babies when they're born, some babies are just very, very happy babies, and others are just really grumpy and crying and can never get settled. And so, yes, I do think it's something that you're maybe born with.
But would you say if you're a baby unsettled, that makes you dark?
No, but they're prone to seeing the pessimistic side of life rather than the optimistic side of life, maybe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, interesting. Elaine has her hand up.
I think we all have light and dark, and I think we come through to the light when we get in and do like, you know, like our shadow work and kind of face those dark parts of ourselves. I think in terms of nature, nurture, I think it's probably a real combination, you know, because I've seen children who have been adopted, and then you have, you know, in terms of their genetics, well, they've probably done much better than what they would have done had they been in their birth family. But yeah, some of the worst people I've ever come across in terms of criminals have had really sort of traumatic childhood. So I don't think anyone is born bad.
Thank you. Juliet?
Yeah, actually, I agree with Elaine. I think I think children aren't born good or bad. I think it is the circumstances, and you know, so it could be something that's happened to the mother, like whilst they're in the womb. So they might come in and they might cry a lot, but it doesn't mean they're bad. It means that they're suffering and their nervous system needs to be calmed down. But so I think it's like 50-50 nature, nurture. And also, like, we go through different phases in life. So, you know, it can feel heavy, and, you know, if you've got lots of things going on, you can feel really stressed. So you might only be showing the kind of darker side rather than the lighter side. And it's all about the energy. So, yeah, I think it's a lot to do with the environment and how we process that.
Okay, thank you, Juliet. All right, so let's go on to page 63. So interesting, this. So interesting. So this is about, she talks about this person who's designed a product, an article, a painting, a piece of art, or something you're creating, or even starting your own business. Yeah, an idea, a concept. So that's definitely lights us. And so she's saying about now, when we show up in the world and we're putting ourselves out there, so like, you know, like sitting on that skinny branch with your butt hanging off the skinny branch, which is about to snap at any time, right? And you're exposing yourself to this. This is what's interesting. So number one, number two, on that first page, and we're going to go and read some more. So that 1 and 2, can I get Steph to read number 1? And I feel I need to include Morag, and this is number 2. So we seem to have the quadruple lot out today. So off you go, please. So Steph, you first, and then Morag follow on.
Once you realize that your self-worth is hitched to what you've produced or created, it's unlikely that you'll share it. Or if you do, you'll strip away a layer or two of the juiciest creativity and innovation to make the revealing less risky. There's too much on the line to just put your wildest creations out there.
I'm coming after the beautiful steps voice. Here we go. I'm going to try and get my creamy, lovely voice on here.
Do it.
If you do share it in its most creative form and the reception doesn't meet your expectations, you're crushed. You're no good. The chances of soliciting feedback, re-engaging and going back to the drawing board are slim. You shut down. Shame tells you that you shouldn't have even tried. Shame tells you that you're not good enough and you should have known better. And if your ex-husband keeps telling you, are you not ashamed that you're leaving me? Well, you know what I mean? Did it?
I must admit, you are looking radiant, Morag. You're kind of growing back into your true self, then, my lovely. Yes, isn't that right? And interesting when you talk about husband, this was a card from Donna and Thomas. And the words in, you like this, Morag, is God bless your marriage. May your kindest words be to each other. Love, Donna and Thomas. Right? So very good. Okay, so yes, so we I'm sure have all experienced this, haven't we? And we've all probably not given it our entire wholeheartedness. Our head and heart coherence was probably slightly misaligned because we knew that we were going to get some form of criticism. Yes? Yeah, okay. So page 64. Let's go, top paragraph. If you're wondering what happens all the way to performing and perfecting, I would like, can we get Juliet? This one's on you.
If you're wondering what happens if you attach your self-worth to your art or your product and people love it, let me answer that from personal and professional experience. You're in even deeper trouble. Everything shame needs to hijack and control your life is in place. You've handed over your self-worth to what people think. It's panned out a couple of times, and now it feels a lot like Hotel California. You can check in, but you can never leave. You're officially a prisoner of pleasing, performing, and perfecting.
Thank you. Okay, anybody living in Hotel California right now? No? We all good? Has anybody given up? Has anybody done detrimental to themselves? And keep doing it? No? Okay, excellent. Right, the next paragraph is where she comes in about how do we kind of like step up from this. So with an awareness of shame all the way to with who you want to be. Sally, this one's on you.
Thank you. I was going to say about that previous paragraph, by the way, it doesn't apply to me, but it made me think of like bands when they do that first album or an album that like a massive album that's really, really good, and then they get stuck, don't they? And that it reminded me of that. And then they never.
Or do you think
never
sometimes
create another album?
Yeah, or the first book or the first film, and they do the next one
Yeah.
because the first one's been so good, and the next one will never be as good as the first one. What is that all about?
Yeah, they get really. I think it's what she says. I think that they attach their self-worth, and it goes really, really well, and that actually puts you in deeper trouble than the other way.
And you care too much about the outcome because then
yeah, you're trying to please everybody, then, aren't you?
Right, and then also you've got a reputation to uphold.
Yeah, I'm sure Lorraine's seen it in fashion design as well, with collections and stuff like that. When people do a wonderful job, and then next time they're 10 years making the next collection because they get entirely stuck in what she says, that pleasure, performing, and perfecting. It must be a nightmare. Right, sorry. Next paragraph. With an awareness of shame and strong shame resilience skills, this scenario is completely different. You still want folks to like, respect, and even admire what you've created, but your self-worth is not on the table. You know that you are far more than a painting, an innovative idea, an effective pitch, a good sermon, or a high Amazon.com ranking. Yes, it will be disappointing and difficult if your friends or colleagues don't share your enthusiasm or if things don't go well, but this effort is about what you do, not who you are. Regardless of the outcome, you've already dared greatly, and that's totally aligned with your values, with who you want to be.
It goes back to that. Why are we doing what we're doing? Are we doing it? You know, I mean, there is some form of course, you want to do it because, you know, you're passionate about it. So, you know, that's why you do it. You go out there because you feel this is your purpose and you have a gift and you want to share that. But when it gets shut down, where do you turn to next? Because, you know, to have the strength to go out there and do it in the first place, but to understand it's not about outward recognition, it's about the inward recognition that you actually stood up and made yourself counted, going back to the man in the arena, which is even if you don't succeed, it's not about in other people's terms. You've already succeeded because you did it on your own terms. Yeah. Anybody want to comment on that further?
I liked, there's an earlier quote in the book that I really liked. Is something about what do I want to do so bad I will fail. It's like the converse of, like, people say, you know, what would you do if you knew you could not fail? And she says, well, what would you do? What will you do that is worth failing for? And that's what she's saying there, is you're doing it regardless of outcome, because it's not who you are, it's about what you do and what you're willing to be okay with failing at. So I think it connects back to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is failing so bad? You're never going to be successful unless you fail along the way. Fail is part of success. Go ahead, Sally. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad to fail. I do quite a lot on this in the gym, and we've done quite a lot of podcasts on it, because it really holds people back. It really holds women back big time. They get so wrapped up in failing, in not getting things correct, that it really does hold them back.
And again, now you can look into a deeper context if you're doing these podcasts in your gym, Sally, about what is it that gives you that, you know, that feeling. Because are you feeling this way through through guilt, through humiliation, through embarrassment, that shame? Where is that, you know, what that fear, that failure thing, where does that actually, how deep rooted is that? Because she goes on to explain how if you have the other three, the guilt, humiliation, embarrassment, you can work on that. But the shame, that's a whole different picture now.
It's a big deal in my industry because of the weight loss, because that's all linked to shame and trauma and blame and guilt. So what a lot of people don't understand about weight loss is it's just not simple. It is simple calories in and calories out, but that doesn't take into account emotion and and most people have been shamed for their weight, and people connect being overweight with being lazy, so there's shame attached to it automatically just in our culture. And if we don't break through that, and so then women try to lose weight and fail at it, so then they stop trying because the failing compounds the shame, because then they feel like they're the only ones that can't lose weight, because our entire culture is geared around, oh, just eat less, move more, intermittent fasting, this, that nonsense, whatever. And it's all nonsense, because this weight loss is about self-worth, and it's about the lifestyle things that change that, not about eating less and moving more.
So the just on that note, if
deal.
you were in Africa, big is beautiful. If you have a big bum in Africa, where I come from, it's a sign that you can afford to eat. That's sexy. Isn't it funny? Before we go to you, Nikki, Keely, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something? You put your hand back down, but you did have it up for a while.
Yeah, it's really talking about, it was actually one of my good friends, Alcom. She's a huge perfectionist. I mean, everything she turns her hat to, she's always really good at it. But she has been, she wrote a book probably 4 years ago, and she still hasn't released it she's Dr. Alka, and she keeps on wanting to add more and more. And I said, stop adding more, release it. Just do, you know, like a second edition, a third edition, you know. But I said, life's going to change. You're going to adapt and change. You're going to keep on improving. But it's holding her back from her releasing a book that's going to be absolutely brilliant. But all she's waiting is for perfection. And, you know, she works on that premise and has always worked on that premise.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Well, perfection doesn't exist. Progress exists, right?
Exactly.
We really, yeah. Thank you, Keely. Nikki.
Good evening, everyone. All I wanted to say was I've seen that exactly happen with a friend who went on one of those slim things, which was shakes and bars. I've forgotten the name of it. And she lost like 6 stone. And, you know, there was a so-called support group and everything. And then she's like put on like 8 stone back. And like the shame has like doubled because like she got so much attention from losing weight that she just couldn't cope. And it wasn't Slim Fast, it was another something. But anyway, it really, you know, things which is non-food as well, you know, really bad quality products. So she was eating really poor nutrition for, you know, 3 months or however long it took. It wasn't Cambridge, no. It doesn't matter what it was. But that's the thing that was really, really damaging, is it's like really set her back, not only like kind of physically, because all the mess with her metabolism, and, you know, then her husband divorced her, and it's literally been a car crash, the whole thing. And like the shame of like her weight now, like literally she just hides behind her clothes and hides who she is. And it's literally a crying shame. It's so desperately sad to see like kind of how damaging, and basically the essential thing is the shame, which has doubled as a result of her putting the weight back on, and then her husband rejecting her, and then, you know, literally she wants to disappear. It's absolutely heartbreaking. That is the danger. That's so, you know, catastrophic.
Yeah, thank you for
She's
sharing.
the kindest, loveliest person you ever meet. Such a lovely person. Really dear friend of mine. So yeah.
Thank you. That's really sad. 67, page 67. Shame. So it's the first paragraph, but it's just the last 2 sentences. Shame started as a 2-person experience, but as I got older, I learned how to do shame all by myself. Sometimes when we dare to walk into the arena, the greatest critic we face is ourselves. There's a great quote that says, if the words you spoke internally were tattooed on the outside of your body, would you still look so beautiful? Can you see my little person? Can you see all the words? Now, what are those words? That's a good example. In fact, that's a beautiful gift from Leslie Hughes. I don't think she's on tonight. She gave me my Christmas gift, obviously from the book, you know, from obviously the book club, but look at that. Now, what are those words, guys? Oh, there isn't any on the art. That's a shame. But I just had to check it out, you know. But, you know, you know, isn't that amazing? Now, if the words you thought inside, what your internal dialogue was tattooed on the outside of your body, would you still look so beautiful? Would you? No? I actually don't think any of us would. I think we'd like to feel self-worthiness and pride that we do because we work hard on this stuff, but I bet we still say stuff internally that and we should know better. We should know better. But we don't, do we? Especially if you've had too many red wines. You know, I heard a great story about a husband and wife, so I'm going to practice this on Sean. So she looks in the mirror and she says, darling, is my bum getting bigger? Oh no, she's trying on a dress, that's it. Does my bum look big in this? Now, he's got 2 choices. 1, he can say, no, darling, you know, it doesn't, you look amazing. Or 2, he can say, yeah, it does. Now, either way, I'm sure he's not going to get a kind reply. Yeah? Because if he tells her it doesn't, she's going to say you're lying. And if he says that it does, she's going to not like him because he shouldn't say that. So you know how he answers that question? Darling, do you think I'm getting a little bit thin on the top of my head here. So again, you know, when we ask people questions, that's coming from within. Are you looking for, what kind of feedback are you wanting? Are you wanting that person to make you feel better, or you know, or you wanting them to say something to make you feel better? It's hard. We put people in positions like that all the time, don't we? Because we're doubting ourselves. But empathy means you can, right? Because she goes on to say, when you can screw up, you can speak to the people who will give you the space to empathize. But those things really don't need to be said, because we're all facing gravity every single day, yeah? How old do I look? Worst question, Keely. Yeah. Is it a question that your partner repeatedly says to you again and again, which is just like drives you crazy, or your kids, or you, or do you say it to other people? And you know you shouldn't, because you're seeking approval. Okay, Jane, Jane, did you just have your hand up? Somebody had their hand up there. Oh, Elaine.
So I was in Ireland a few weeks ago because I did Campbell. So Campbell's it's a Native American sort of traditional medicine. So they use basically frog poison. So it's very good for like certain physical illnesses and things like this, but it's also an emotional cleanse. And you know, we know that the body keeps the score. We know that trauma gets into our cells. And it was actually really interesting that I did this in Ireland, because obviously in terms of Wheelie, and that was probably where a lot of the trauma happened. And it makes you purge. And you know, she analyzed my sick, you know, she's like that dark bits, grief and things like this. And I flew back to Edinburgh that night, and I just felt a real sense of peace, whereas I've always had that love Ireland, struggle with Ireland kind of relationship. And what's been interesting as well is my mom and I have always had, you know, I love her, but I haven't always liked her, and it just feels that there's been a shift in that relationship. And I think it's because the stuff that I was holding in my body has come out. So I really do recommend Campbell for people, but it's not for the faint-hearted. And I think it does link into, you know, what we're talking about today. And people were talking a lot about fatness. Certainly from my experience of people, like I've seen people, sexual abuse, fat bellies, do you know, and I've worked with a lot of people with sexual abuse, and I'm not saying, you know, but I think it also as well, just a bit, it's that whole bit about solar plexus and people carrying weight there, is about how they feel about themselves, you know, in terms of their self-worth. So
Thank you. So you drink frog spawn and then you make yourself sick, and then she studies you sick?
no, it goes into your blood. They burn you, and then they put, it's like frog poison. It goes in, so it goes in internally. But yeah, it was my niece has rheumatoid arthritis, and it's totally worked for her. She's off all prescribed medication.
Oh, Campbell.
Campbell, Kambo. Yeah, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Wow, interesting. Never heard of it. Karen, aloha.
It was just to also say that what Elaine's been talking about, Campbell, I tried in August, and it's very healing. And it's when you're talking about cell weight loss, for years training as a nutritionist, you know, you get told that from a scientific perspective, weight is about calories in, calories out, very mathematical. But then later on, when you look at it, it's very much about the fact that many of us carry trauma. And trauma sits in they say like the emotional girdle, which is your hip, and around your hips and around your abdominal area. And you know, you find that when people, not to say that everybody who is overweight has trauma in different areas, but it's usually about the fact that if you don't love yourself, then how are you able to move through life if you don't have any self-love or compassion and kindness? And we all hold elements of trauma that we've either brought into this world generationally, or that we have acquired through our upbringing, through our nurturing. And that there's certain practices, when I found that I tried Campbell, where it pulled something from the seat of my gut. I don't know how I can describe it to be, where you end up purging to an extent where there's an unbelievable sense of serenity and peace. And when you get that serenity and peace, there's nothing that can upset you. So if you don't have that serenity and peace within you, and you are carrying trauma, then how does that manifest in your life? Some people, it manifests in addictions and other things. Some people manifest in addiction in food. So it's interesting how we now look at the body as an emotional seat of potential healing, and what are the things that we should be doing in order to try and help people heal. Because once people understand that they need to heal, then I think they will further understand why they are what they are, and understand where they are in that point in life, if that makes sense. I was rambling there. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's a tough subject, isn't it? It really is. It's so, I think the thing is, it's so sensitive, isn't it, to all of us? We all have a sad story. We all had trauma. We've all had shame, and this is about facing the headlights and self-admittance rather than self-denial. And it's a very sensitive subject indeed. I mean, she's totally taken the bull by the horns. So it's still on page 67. Thank you, Karen. So we're following on by these sort of three paragraphs. Well, no, it's really two, isn't it? So let's start off with, so shame derives its power from being unspeakable, is the first paragraph, all the way down to light to shame and destroy it. And then the second paragraph, just like Roosevelt advised, all the way down to, I was just courageous, you can move on, shame. So I would like, Karen, you can read the first paragraph, please. And then can I please get Nikki, the second one?
Thank you. Shame derives its power from being unspeakable. That's why it loves perfectionists. It's so easy to keep us quiet. If we cultivate enough awareness about shame to name it and speak to it, we'll basically cut it off at the knees. Shame hates having words wrapped around it. If we speak shame, it begins to wither. Just the way exposure to light was deadly for the gremlins, language and story bring light to shame and destroy it.
Whoa, this is good, right? So you want me just like Roosevelt, that bit?
Mm-hmm.
Just like Roosevelt advised, when we dare greatly, we will err, and we will come up short again and again. There will be failures and mistakes and criticism. If we want to be able to move through the difficult disappointments, the hurt feelings and the heartbreaks that are inevitable in a fully lived life, we can't equate defeat with being unworthy of love, belonging and joy. If we do, we'll never show up and try again. Shame hangs out in the parking lot of the arena, waiting for us to come out defeated and determined to never take risks. It laughs and says, I told you this was a mistake. I knew you weren't enough. Shame resilience is the ability to say, this hurts, this is disappointing, maybe even devastating, but success and recognition and approval are not the values that drive me. My value is courage, and I was just courageous. You can move on, shame.
I think every child should read that every night as a poem before they go to bed. I think so should every adult. Because if you can look at it through that, to say that, you know what, you did the do, it doesn't matter the outcome. We always say focus on the activity, not the outcome in Arbonne, because it's not about the outcome. It's about you showing up every single day, doing doing the do. But yet we are so connected to everybody and everything, whether we like it or not. Yeah. So as much as we like it, being a human, we have feelings and we have emotions and we have, you know, all of this stuff. But, you know, no matter how you attempt to live a safeguard life, this will happen to you at any given moment. Yeah. I don't know what it is. If I'm out and I hear teenage kids laughing, I don't like it. It unnerves me. Even though I've done nothing wrong, something about that really gets under my skin. Is there anything like that like Karen, you're really nodding your head there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I know it's nothing to do with me, but there's something that just is like, it really makes me feel ill. So silly. Does anybody have anything like that? It's nothing to do with them, then it's just irrelevant, but still, there's a little trigger there. Keely, your hand is up.
You just hit the nail on the coffin when you just turn around and said it's that trigger. It takes you immediately back to a certain space that you're reliving, because you know you've had people being bullied and mocked and all those kind of things. So when you hear them laughing, you're immediately thinking into your head, are they laughing at me? So and I mean I had last year I was I'm like part of a speaker academy, and they do a speaking competition thing on the last day, and I was with a group of 5 men. There was a few things happened, it doesn't matter what it was, but because of the outcome of it, it immediately triggered me back to my corporate environment, being with a whole group of men, and I thought I'd got over it, I thought I dealt with it, and clearly I hadn't, because in that instant moment, it just reverted me back to that space, and it rocked my whole entire day. I ended up having to go. I had to go home because I was just like, I can't be in this space anymore. So it's, yeah, triggers.
Yeah.
The joy of them.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, interesting. Anybody got anything else like that sets them off? I know my friend, I came back from South Africa, I went to Scotland, she went back home to Ireland, Northern Ireland, and it was the height of the IRA, and anytime she hears a dog, a German Shepherd specifically, she knows that bark, that noise, she literally just she comes over, you can see she starts to get panic attack. Yeah, just a dog bark, and she knows it. She knows that dog bark. She knows it's a German Shepherd. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy, crazy. Okay, so, and Mintu, you're the hypnotist on here. So I guess the work you can do around helping that, there's always help, right, for people.
Yes, absolutely. There is, yeah.
And would you say some people, it takes longer to help them than others?
Yes, it does. I mean, some people, yeah, may one session and they'll really go powerfully in and kind of change it all, get free of it once, and other people may need way more. Also, it depends kind of, you know, how
And why
many.
is that? Is that to do with levels of shame? Are we talking there's depths to different types of shame, or is it at a certain age, or is it because their mind isn't open? What is it that means for some person it could be one session, one maybe 6?
Well, there's like it depends on so many things. First of all, people are just different. Some people take things, you know, really deeply in their heart, even small things, and some people not so much. You can see in the same family, children go through the same experiences, and one is deeply affected and other one may not be quite as deeply. You know, it's just different personalities already, and then yes, of course, yeah, the depth of and this is like what she says there, you know, we get shamed by people when we're little, but then we actually become ourselves the biggest shamers of our, you know, we learn to shame ourselves. And that's the difficult one to sort of learn from that habit, get rid of that habit.
Thank you. All right. I read, you know, I know there's a great quote somewhere that I saw. It says, "The pain wasn't your fault, but the healing is your responsibility." I think I said that last week, but I just love that. Okay, so just at the bottom of that page to turn over, I'm going to read this bit because I'm very proud on this bit. So I'm not trying to kill you. I'm just saying we can't embrace vulnerability if shame is suffocating your sense of worthiness and connection. Strap yourself in and let's get our heads and hearts around this experience called shame so we can get about the business of truly living. And I feel I'm good with this because I was like, I put hallelujah in my book because last year my word was worthiness and this year my word is connection. So I just feel like, well, I don't even need to do book club now. See you, everybody. Bye. I'm obviously got all my shit together. Good luck with life. Bye. See you later. Yeah, but no, it's like, you know when you read a book and it's like, oh my God, this book was written for me. You know, it's perfect, right? But again, signs, but it just means, what does that mean? Okay, so at the end of the day, what is shame and why is it so hard to talk about? This made me laugh when she said, you know, if you don't have shame, you need to have it because she's going to expose the sociopaths and all the people who think that they have got their shit together, right? And I love that. And I think that goes back to taking ownership, doesn't it? When you do mess up, and we all do it. So number 1, 2, and 3. But that first sentence in number 1, we all have it. Shame is universal and one of the most primitive human emotions that we experience. Primitive. Okay, that's important because that's primitive. Okay, so that's like the atom, isn't it? That's the first cell. That's the primate, primitive. So it's in us. So I guess if it's already there, it's going to get developed, isn't it? We're born with it. Yeah. So maybe your 5 faculties, Bob Proctor teaches us, you know, we have the 5 lower faculties, taste, touch, sense, smell, sight, and then the higher faculties, which are, this is, remember, imagination, Lorraine's word last year. What else do we have? Memory. Yes. What are the other 3 higher faculties? Because we remember stuff. Remember Socrates, the art of learning is remembering. Do we remember the other 3?
Reason, perception, will, intuition, imagination, memory.
Thank you. Excellent. Was actually more than
written on a post-it note on my wall.
perfect. Now, if you don't know that, could you say that slowly? Get a pen and paper, guys, write it down and stick it by your computer. So anytime I ever ask that question again, I'm going to think you all are Socrates because you remembered it. Because it's important. This is really, really powerful stuff to work on because that's going to take you to that higher level. Go ahead, Nikki, say them slowly.
Okay, the 6 higher faculties of the mind are, ready? Reason, memory, perception, will, intuition, imagination. I'll screenshot my post-it note and put it in the chat as well.
Thank you, darling.
She's about to screenshot my ideal camper van. She's also on a post-it note. Thank you, Minty, for your help there.
All right.
Put the right one in the chat.
Thank you. And actually, no one's picked imagination this year for the word of the year, Lorraine. So you're still a standalone on that word. We've never had it before or since, my lovely. Okay, so now she exposes on page 69, she goes through talking about the 12 shame categories. And funnily enough, Sally, body image, top of there, appearance and body image. She doesn't put it in numerical order, but I'm going to guess it probably is. I think for most women, it is, right? Maybe it's slightly different for men, I don't know. And then we've got, going through the list, money and work, motherhood, family, parenting, mental, physical health, addiction, sex. What the hell? What's wrong with these people? Lorraine, I mean, seriously, come on. Aging, religion, surviving trauma, and being stereotyped or labeled. Interesting. Okay, so shame, examples of shame. Yeah, we do. Oh, and then over the page, these are responses. So when they are asked for an example of shame. So Okay, anybody want to share maybe their two from there, or they've got their own? My two would be, oh gosh, so this, when I read this book, it was a while ago, by the way, because shame is raging at my kids, but they've left home now, so obviously I've managed to get rid of that one. And then I had underneath there, I had shame is hearing my parents fight through the walls and wonder if I'm the only one who feels this afraid. Has anybody got anything they want to share? You don't have to. But if you'd like to, unmute.
Can I just ask, what is shame is my DUI mean?
Oh, thank God, Nikki. I was just trying to work that one out.
Driving under influence.
Oh, driving under influence.
Sorry, what was that, Mintu?
Driving under influence.
Basically over the limit.
Yes.
I think Fiona and I need to own up to that.
Yeah, never done that before, lol.
Can I just say, you know how I always get done for speeding? Well, I have a clean license, then I get a police letter. I drove through a red automatic light 1 second after it went red, and now I'm getting 3 points and a fine. But if I hadn't had speeding like I normally do, I would have got an awareness course with no fine and no points.
I did the awareness course.
So the universe has a sense of humor, because I really wanted to go to Canada with a clean license.
I've done it 3 times, speed awareness course.
You did it 3 times. I thought you could only do it once.
Oh no, every time you try a clean license.
Area manager retreat, Jane, pay attention to this one because we're driving together. Area manager retreat when it was in what was it called? Anyway, Nottingham area. And I should have gone left, and I thought, oh my God. So I did a U-turn, and my U-turn overran the speeding limit. And that's when I got points. And it was like 20, and I was doing 25. I thought, well, they haven't caught me when I've been doing 100, and yet I get done for doing 25 over 20.
That's hilarious.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So obviously we have no shame. That's a bit brassic and bold, isn't it? We should have. So shame is real pain. Oh my God. 71, that top paragraph, please. This is especially nowadays very important. Johnny, do you have this book? It is on you in your beautiful Spanish accent. But you're Spain, but you're that part of Spain. What's it called again?
Like Basque Country.
Basque Country, yes. In your beautiful Basque Country accent, please.
So tell me again, Fiona, I got lost with the last paragraph of the 71.
So the top paragraph, yes, please.
Oh,
so the shame is real pain
shame
all the
is,
way to it hates being spoken.
Yeah, shame is real pain. The importance of social acceptance and connection is reinforced by our brain chemistry. And the pain that results from social rejection and disconnection is real pain. In a 2011 study founded by the National Institute of Mental Health and by the National Institute of Drug Abuse, researchers found that as far as the brain is concerned, physical pain and intensive experience of social rejection hurt in the same way. So when I define shame as an intensely painful experience, I'm not kidding. Neuroscience advises confirm what we have known all along. Emotions can hurt and can cause pain. And just as we often struggle to define physical pain, describing emotional pain is difficult. Shame is particularly hard because it hates having words wrapped around it. It hates being spoken.
Thank you, Johnny. That was amazing. I mean, this is her second language, right? You can tell she actually is really intelligent. So I did pick on you, but I knew you could handle it. Good job. So she's mentioned this shame hates having words wrapped around it. Do you see how she keeps repeating that same sentence? So you can see how she keeps saying how we deal with shame is to expose it because it hides behind the words, yeah? And, you know, she's saying this is intensely painful experience. Has anybody had shame so bad that they've stayed in bed for a day or locked themselves away or drunk themselves under the table or couldn't even bear to face that person or that, you know, has anybody had anything like that happen to them or somebody they know, like to the point where we're talking like, you know, I mean, Okay, why do people kill themselves? It's a mystery to me. Are we talking, is this the lowest low of shame? Is that the intensity? Is that what drives somebody to do that? I don't know. I have no experience in this. Where does that come from? I've never understood that. Karen, go ahead. I'd love somebody to open that up with us.
Hello. I've got a friend who was morbidly obese and she had issues with food. It's really going to answer your question with regards to why people kill themselves, because I have had a family member that hung himself, and that was quite difficult to come around to accept at the time. But maybe this might hopefully try and get folk to try and understand how shame sort of works. She was morbidly obese, and when she was old, her father basically threw her across the living room, where she basically fell on a chair and whatnot. So she's always had this thing where she was attracted to people that abused her. And because of that, she put a lot of weight on, and she found it really difficult to lose that weight, to the point that as a businesswoman tried to grow her business, she couldn't actually physically go out in public because of the fact that she was just so ashamed about how she looked, and she would just sit and eat and eat and eat. And the only way she could get rid of that shame is by cutting out 70% of her stomach and going for a gastric sleeve to allow her to overcome that shame. Now, she's not overcome the shame, she's just cut out her stomach. The shame's still there. And I suppose when it came down to my cousin that hung himself, the shame really was the fact that when his mother died, when he was 9 years old, he didn't get the counselling that he needed in order to deal with the loss of his mother. So there was all this issue about wetting the bed and whatnot, and he used to get really ostracized for that. Then his mother passed, and he was a very timid man, and we didn't deal with it very well, let's put it that way. His family didn't deal with it very well. And so he retained that, and he was never able to talk about it, and he went through, had a family and everything like that. And he never ever felt worthy. So it's a sense of how do you deal with trying to improve your worthiness and get others to understand why you feel shame because you did not have a mother, and it was the mother that you love more than your father, and you missed your mother that much, and you weren't able to deal with life that way, to the point that, you know, your life started to fall apart and you started to become unknowingly religious, but for the wrong reasons, and then you take your own life. So shame is such an insipid thing, and it rears its ugly head in many different ways, and people do different things to try and deal with it. But I don't know whether we have the facilities in our society to help people actually deal with shame on a real emotional level. I don't think that we do. I don't know if that's answered your question.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. It's I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It is so hard, so hard. Sally, your hand is up.
Yeah, this is, again, it's something I deal with ever such a lot in the gym and in all sorts of ways as well. And like day before yesterday, I had two quite detailed conversations about prolapses and ovaries and uteruses, and it's way more. I never want to have those conversations. I'm not really that person, but I'm trying to normalize having those conversations because women don't talk about this stuff. So I've got one that's just had a prolapse, so we're having to have these conversations. And as soon as I picked up the phone, I'm like, what's going on? She said, oh, it's really embarrassing. And then launched into this story, and it's not what I want to spend my day doing, but what Brené says is right. And if we don't start finding words for this stuff, then we don't talk about it. And I've got a gym full of women, probably half of which experience heavy menstrual bleeding, urinary incontinence, risk of prolapse, or had a prolapse, or feeling uncomfortable because of prolapse, all sorts of stuff like that. And if we don't, and doctors aren't speaking about it, and if we don't speak about it, then the shame comes in and they think they're the only one.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and
thank
that's
you.
That's just not true. And this is what Karen just said about having a society where we can deal with shame is the vitally important thing. It's about normalizing conversations about our bodies, mistakes, things that happen. And I'm sure Elaine probably agrees in her job in social work and talking about being okay about talking about things, 100%.
Yeah.
And then people don't feel isolated and disconnected, which is probably a contribution to taking your own life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, remember the fundamental of Brené Brown talks about human fundamentals, and this is primitive, is one, human connection, and one is being part of something bigger than us. And with that, that's it. That's it. You know, baseline. You know, and shame shuts you down, so it makes you separate. You know, like it alienates you from that disconnection. You know. Thank you, Sally. Emma, you're next. Sorry, guys, we're going to go over if anyone needs to leave, but we probably started a little bit late, but I think this is an important topic, so carry on. Sorry, Emma.
Yeah, this is one that's hit recently for me as well, because I found out last night about a lady who, I wouldn't call her a friend. I'd done a Reiki treatment on her. I've seen her, but her kids play cricket with my kids. I see her over the fields walking the dog. And I found out through a cryptic Facebook post that she died. And then I found out that she had taken her own life earlier this week. And it was like, well, how, why, what on earth? You know, where was she in the headspace? How does somebody get to that place that is so dark that they think the world is better off without them? And I was reading something a while back, and people saying about how suicide is very selfish, but what the person, I mean, I don't know personally, but what they feel is that everybody is so much better off without them there. And she's left 3 kids. And it's just like, oh my God. And I see it like, you know, you think people that have got anxiety, depression, things like that. She was out in nature all the time, walking the dog. I'd see her running through the village. She was physically active. She, you know, she didn't, you just don't know, do you? But something I keep seeing as well is how women between the ages of 45 and 55 or something are the most common for suicide because of the hormones. And it's just like, and I mean, thank goodness now, talk about menopause and things like that, the awareness is so much higher than it ever was. But, you know, it's just like, it just beggars belief. It's baffling.
Yeah, that is. Thank you. My goodness. Ooh, right. Elaine, you're next.
Going on to suicide. So two examples. There was someone I know through in my work circle, not who jumped off the Forth Road Bridge, which is the big bridge in Scotland. And we were like, oh, well, that's really sad. And then we learned that he'd been basically charged with downloading child pornography. And then our reaction slightly changed. But, you know, it's still sad. And I think the thing is, in terms of that moment, because he'd been caught, whether he just couldn't face the world again because he just felt so ashamed, or sometimes as well, people who potentially then got into trouble is because the feeling of being overwhelmed and bringing shame on your family.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Elaine. It's another angle to it. Steph, you're next.
Wow, this is such a heavy conversation. And I think that bringing it back to building our businesses, we used to say all the time, we have no idea what's going on behind closed doors. And I think it's a really important thing to bring back into into all of our conversations, because clearly people have all sorts of bad feelings about themselves. They have shame, they have disappointments. They're afraid that maybe life is pass them by. It's too late to make a significant change or take steps in their direction that they want to go into. So it is a powerful topic that we get to offer in this with our business. And I think that's what's very attractive. You know, people generally speaking are not worried in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. about their eye cream, but they're worried about their bad feelings about themselves, about their finances, about the health being whatever, you know, the bigger pictures. So it's really interesting how I wrote it earlier, she talks about shame as an entity. It's as separate from us. And, you know, maybe when you're not paralyzed by shame, maybe it's because you see it as an outside of you that you can let go of. And maybe the problem is sometimes people can't, they absorb that shame as a profound failing on their part. It's very moving.
Yeah,
thing.
very well said. Very thought-provoking. Yeah. Juliet.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it's like it's not a really clear-cut thing. I think in like most professions, there's elements of shame that come up. And I've had a number of parents that I've worked with that have, you know, admitted to me that, you know, they've tried to take their own life, or they felt that they would be better off, you know, their children or family would be better off without them. When they've got like, you know, beautiful children and, you know, a nice environment, husband, whatever. But if you looked at them, if you saw them, you think they look really normal, and just it still shocks me. And you know, thank God. I mean, but I think it's linked for those people that, you know, do have suicidal thoughts. I think it's linked to depression or hormonal imbalances, and so you're not always in your own your right state of mind. And so that's why, you know, people do these things, because they feel so bad that you know, that for them is the only way out. And if they don't get that help, it's, you know, they just feel so low, they don't really care, or they feel like that is the better option for those around them, which, yeah, it's incredibly sad. And, you know, it's, you know, really sad, you know, to hear Emma's, you know, story. And it's I had you know, I know somebody else, and her 15-year-old son, he hung himself, and, you know, only child, and she's a lovely lovely lady, very successful businesswoman, and beautiful home and everything, and it completely shocked all the kids at school. So it's just it's just incredibly sad.
Yeah, thank you. Like Steph said, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? None of us do, yeah. And then sometimes we may not even know ourselves, right? Experience some things, yeah. You know, we want to think we can, but it doesn't always show up, right? The way we hope it would. So I like that feeling of it being outside of you, you know. Yes, Morag. Oh, that's lovely to say. Let's end on that. Let's end on that before we say goodbye. Morag, unmute and share that beautiful statement.
Yeah, most people, and this is from people that I know who have had losses, especially children, teens, things like that. And what has come back from, it says most people who have survived suicide are actually delighted they have lived.
That's a great ending. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. It was very thought-provoking and important to talk about, because, you know, we are here to like live and learn and grow and share with each other. Okay, love you all. Enjoy the full moon, the wolf moon, and I'll see you guys next week. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye.